This is a key part of step 2 of our discovery process. Before you start, you will need to have developed your question set and conducted your semi-structured interviews. So, what is an analytical matrix? The template is called the Analytical Matrix because it does just that. It allows us to document the voice of the customer to more easily identify the various patterns. The process we apply is 1. We start using the Analytical Matrix by entering your interview questions into column 1 of the matrix. Each interviewee will then have a dedicated column to capture their responses. You will transcribe your interview response into that matrix or into that column, and you do this participant by participant and make sure you capture the words and the language they use. You will now have documented all of this information in a visual matrix format. The next step is to identify patterns of needs. Now, to this end, we've built on points, the points technique from IDEO. This approach helps people new to this process to begin looking at patterns across the answers. Points, P-O-I-N-T-S, and points refer to 1. Problems, things that occur frequently, which the user finds frustrating, but which doesn't stop them from doing that job. O. Opportunities, validation of issues you had expected to find. I. Insights, things that surprised you and may need to be investigated further. N. Needs, wants they have with the current solution, and generally these lead to good incremental improvements on existing solutions. T. Troubles, things that happen infrequently but have serious consequences for them or others. Sound, things that work well, that you might want to keep in your new solution or new iteration. And then the question mark. Sometimes the answers raise another question, so we may need to list these and raise them in the next interview or go back to that interviewee and clarify. Some top tips when undertaking the interviews and the analysis. 1. Make sure you've done enough interviews to start to be able to see a pattern. 2. Make sure your initial semi-structured question sets are not too general or too broad. If this is the case, you won't get any detail in your answers and you will not be able to identify any useful patterns. 3. Capture the language of your user you are interviewing. And if appropriate, ask permission to record your interview to ensure you capture their responses accurately. Apps like Otter are useful for doing this and save time by converting the audio to text. We can then cut and paste their exact words into each box of the analytical matrix. Always have 2 or ideally 3 people involved in this process, so you review all of the responses together to minimize any bias or self-referencing. Sometimes we see a pattern but don't understand the impact or the consequences it causes. So either you go back to clarify with the interviewee or we can add that question into the next interview. Be open. Be open to issues you did not expect to hear or issues they highlight as major concerns for them, as these may turn out to be game changers, especially around the ability to do or to use something. As we call it, the ability for the user to take action easily.